Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the ID Talk podcast. My name is Tony Bitsionis. I'm the Communications Director for Find Biometrics and Mobile ID World.
And I'm Alex Perala. I'm the editor-in-chief for Find Biometrics and Mobile ID World.
Hello again, Alex. How's it going?
It's going just fine. How are you doing, Tony?
I am well, thank you. Anything you want to talk about this week? We have a very exciting guest coming up. We're speaking with Antonello Mincone from Neurotechnology. That'll be coming up shortly. But first, what would you like to cover?
Yeah, I just want to highlight something that I found very interesting, which is a new report from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They did their first assessment of age estimation technology in a decade and put out a report. They looked at 6 algorithms and they basically were underwhelmed. That's the sense they give in their kind of summary. I have a direct quote here from one of the study's co-authors. He said, "There is a wide range in performance among these algorithms with room for improvement across the board." And they listed their key takeaways, of which there are just a few. One is they said there's no single standout algorithm. Another is that error rates were almost always higher for female faces. And then more positively, age estimation software has improved in the decade since the previous report, which is a good baseline. In a decade, the technology has improved. So that's reassuring. But I bring this up mainly just because I found it kind of surprising. I don't want to list all the companies involved, but a couple of them I understand to have really sophisticated technology, and I'm surprised that NIST wasn't more blown away in its assessment. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, and we've been talking about NIST quite a bit recently. We had Jay Meyer on from FaceTech recently, and he had quite a bit to say. So it's quite relevant to the discussion that we're having these days.
Yeah, and he was kind of I don't want to say skeptical. He had some critiques of NIST's testing standards, the way it goes about these things. So, there might be some nuance there. And if any of the vendors who are involved in this testing want to come and talk to us about that, I'd be honestly really curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And and then one more thing I just want to add, just to be a little spicy. One of the vendors that was involved in this put out a press release before NIST put out its own statement. And the vendor basically said that its algorithm was the top performer and that it showed a minimal bias. And that might be true in some sense, like the way it looked at the metrics, it might have concluded that it was the top performer, but that message really contradicts what NIST itself is now saying, which is that there was no single standout algorithm and that all of the algorithms showed bias to some degree. So it's just kind of surprising to see that disparity between what a vendor was saying and what NIST itself ended up saying.
Absolutely. I know what the press release you're talking about. I also saw it, and yeah, I agree. Got to be on the lookout.
Yeah, but on a more positive note, I do want to say that NIST said that they think AI is rapidly advancing this area, so they're going to be doing this kind of testing more frequently going forward. So we should see progress pretty quickly from here. And
we don't have to wait another decade.
Yes. Yeah, we don't need to wait another decade. So that was my little item that I wanted to flag for our listeners. Do you have anything that you want to flag before we move on to Antonello?
Yeah, actually, I want to take some time to take a look at the PRISM project. Our friend Maxime Most from Acuity Market Intelligence, the PRISM project released their financial services PRISM report last week, I think it was. and just want to go over some of the key highlights from it. Of course, our listeners should definitely listen to our recent conversation with Maxine, where she talks about the PRISM project and the financial services report, and they should absolutely download the report themselves and take a look. But something that really stands out is the phenomenal growth projections in this report for the financial services space and the use of biometric tech in there. Highlighted there is a compounded annual growth rate of 41.2%, which is remarkable, reaching a valuation of 40 billion US by 2028. That's only 4 years from now. We're not talking about,
It's not a
way
decade.
it's not a decade, no. And for that growth, North America is projected to lead, rising from 1.2 billion this year to roughly 5.4 billion in 2028. So again, incredible growth. There's a lot in the report. You should definitely check it out for yourselves. And you'll get a lot of insights on motivating factors behind the adoption of technology, some of the obstacles, some of the key priorities. Lots of really good information in there, and very digestible nuggets. Let's call them nuggets.
Yeah, it's a great report. It's really in depth. I mean, probably all of our listeners are familiar with Max and Acuity, her firm, which has been doing amazing work for many years. And she herself predicted some of the biggest trends in the industry. So always someone worth listening to, especially when she puts out reports. And like she said when she was talking with us, she can explain her methodology. She has like models that she builds that she can share freely. So I mean, she really knows her stuff, and it's just such a huge opportunity that she outlines for vendors in financial services. So it's really worth taking a look at the report.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, well, like Tony mentioned at the top of the show, we've got a really great guest today, Antonello Mincone from Neurotechnology. He has deep expertise on the technological side, and he's also their business development director. So he has a lot of insight on the business side too. So a really interesting person to talk to from one of the major players in biometrics. So shall we talk to Antonello?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're really happy to welcome to the show Antonello Mincone from Neurotechnology. Neurotechnology is a really big deal. I'm sure many listeners know about this company. They are a global biometrics firm. They have a multimodal platform. They're active in some major government projects, and there's plenty for us to go over. So before we get into all of that, Antonello, maybe we can just get a little background on you. I know that you're the business development director at Neurotechnology, but you also have a deeper background in computer engineering and things like that, and biometrics. So maybe you can give us just a little background about yourself before we talk about Neurotechnology.
Sure, Alex. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast. It's really a big pleasure to be your guest today. So yeah, I moved to the company now more than 18 years ago. I have started as an algorithm developer, working like on fingerprint matching algorithms. And then little by little during my career, I moved to the business development side. And even before my professional career, I had quite a lot of experience in programming, in like low-level programming. Maybe somebody from the audience that is familiar with those old computer called Commodore Amiga. I was in Amiga demo scene, making a video demo, when I was my teenage years. But yeah, nowadays I'm here, I'm not programming anymore, and I'm just on the business side.
Okay. Well, it's great to have that background, I imagine, in what you're doing, and you're involved in some pretty huge projects. So I'm sure it helps to have that kind of expertise. So maybe we'll just start with your recent news. you guys had an interesting deployment with MSC Cruises, a major cruise line, which is using Neurotechnology's facial recognition for, I believe, passenger enrollment. Do I have that right?
That's correct. That's correct. Because in fact, we have technology for face modality, not only the recognition, but for the assessment of the standards of the image portrait according to the definition done by ICAO, the ones that are defined in the ISO 19794-5. We have this technology on multi-platform, and one of these platform is exactly the mobile platform and the web platform. So we are very glad that MC Cruise has choose us for this, because it's really a recognition for us of the quality of our technology. I know that they were trying several other similar technology in the recent past, and they choose us. And really, I think it proves not only how our company is good in the marketing, the development of algorithm, but also in the engineering of those algorithms, like for different kind of applications. Because you see, here we have, I think, one peculiarity that I think is important in this kind of application, is that we are speaking about an unsupervised application, meaning that typically in an enrollment process, for example, where we speak about the national ID or passport project, there is an operator. There is somebody that may give some guideline to the enrollee, the person that is in front of the station, how we should act, how we should pose in order to capture a good photo. And in this case, in the case of MC Cruise, we are speaking about an application that, first of all, should run on a consumer mobile, so cannot be too big, so has some constraint comparing to the one that could be, for example, on the normal enrollment station using a national project, should also run on the web. And I think most important, there is not an operator, is an unsupervised process. So the user itself, he should be able, of course, through the instructions that are given by the screen, to understand which action you need to perform in order to make a proper enrollment. And I think few other important aspects are the ones that here we are not speaking about an application for governments. We are speaking about an application done substantially for consumer, for a consumer that is buying a cruise, that substantially is buying an experience that is the cruise, and this experience starts before the cruise itself. So the usability of the application should be very important. And another, I think, important aspects is that we are not speaking about an application that it's working only at national level. So, sometimes we hear about all those bias that are for the face recognition and some tuning that should be done, like for the specific population in certain country, like in Africa, rather than Asia. Here we are speaking about an application that is substantially working at the global level. And this, I think, makes it even more challenging, to meet the end user expectation for the application. And for what we see now, we are really succeeding, because this application, it's already, the usage of our technology in the application, it's already from several months. We know that the numbers are already very important in terms of number of people that use it. We are speaking about millions. I cannot give exact numbers, but really show us that the technology work, specifically the technology for the pre-enrollment work. And for us, I think this could be a ground for future project at national scale level to promote the pre-enrollment stage of the user. Like, for example, we have lots of projects in Africa, where it's very difficult, to reach the people, like to make the enrollment, and the time of enrollment is important, like for the different reason. And when you may shift a part of the enrollment to an unsupervised process to the pre-enrollment one, I think this could be like for several projects would be like a big benefit, because substantially will help to enroll the phase in advance, and maybe to leave for those projects only the capturing of the fingerprints to be done in a supervised stage.
I see. Yeah. So it's like you're saying that because you have this system that can effectively sign somebody up, I assume through like a smartphone app or
Right.
a web app, that could be used in all kinds of excuse me, in all kinds of situations, like in you mentioned challenges in certain parts of Africa. I'm assuming things like areas where there's not much of a connection, like an internet connection, or there's not government offices where people can just easily go and enroll. So it's
Right. There are like we have, for example, as a company, many projects in Africa that are election projects. I mean, projects where substantially through the biometrics, the government want to ensure that everybody that is going to vote make a unique vote. Like that the voters are unique. So typically, the time frame for the enrollment of the people, it's not big, like it's quite restrict. And we have really like a lot of experience in this with different projects that we have done in the past in Congo, in Ghana, and Liberia. And we have seen that the pre-enrollment phase could really reduce significantly the overall enrollment time, and could really be like a cost saving, like for this enrollment stage. And of course, this could be not only for election project, but would be for any other kind of projects where the biometric enrollments needs to be done and resources are limited.
Oh, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of large and complex projects, I wanted to ask you about your work with the UIDAI and the ADHAR program, because that's something that we've covered many times over the year, and it never ceases to amaze me how enormous of a project that is, how complex it must be to be handling enrollment, authentication, security on something so massive. I just can't imagine the complexity behind something like that. So can you speak a little bit to
Yeah.
that?
Right. So we have been awarded this project in 2020 because a new tender was launched. I mean, we still hear in the market a lot of reference to the previous vendor for this project, but now there are three new vendors for the system, or at least we have the new one. The other two are NEC and IDEMIA, and we partner together with TCS, Tata Consultancy Service, for the provision of our ABIS and SDK for the WIDI project. And we have deployed an ABIS system using our fingerprint face and iris technology. Nowadays, I have checked right on previous week, it's approximately 1.64 billions people that is enrolled, and this clearly create a big challenge, not only in the accuracy of the system that I think anyway we meet in a very excellent way, but also in managing the complexity of the scalability, the clustering of the system. Because you see, there is one very important aspect, I think, in biometrics that we often hear about all the technical aspects, about the errors that biometric system can do, the biometric algorithms can do, and those errors are there. Like there is no perfect biometric system, and the multimodal biometric system are there exactly because one modality may substantially compensate the defects that other modalities has. Like, for example, the face is not able to distinguish twins, but you have the fingerprints that is able to discriminate. But when we speak about the biometric system, I think that we should think not only about the algorithm and the errors that could come from the algorithm, but we should look at the overall infrastructure, because if we look at the infrastructure, meaning at the cluster of components that make the system and the workflow that constitute the system, the ability to process in parallel multiple transactions, there are certain errors that may come even from the infrastructure. So we believe that to have a robust infrastructure for the biometric systems in terms of high availability, in terms of scalability, is as well as important as to have like a good algorithm for the system. Because if you don't have the infrastructure, the good infrastructure, you have the risk that anyway some error happens in the system in terms of misrecognition in the same way that you could have when the algorithm fails. So from this perspective, I think that the UIDAI system, it's really the proof for us, but I think in general it's the proof that biometrics can really scale at enormous level, and that the system can be robust, and that the errors can be managed.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm curious what you mean about with the infrastructure. You guys, I know Neurotechnology, you have these really sophisticated algorithms that you're providing. Are you also providing this infrastructure that you were mentioning, or is it something that you work on with partners, or who exactly is on that side?
Yeah, by infrastructure, I mean like the software infrastructure, I mean the cluster architecture to manage the scalability of the system. So this is something that we develop in-house. So all the parts that would manage the efficiency to scale the system by various nodes, to minimize the loading from the disk, to eventually optimize the usage of the RAM in terms of allowing data redundancy directly in the RAM, meaning that if one node in the cluster is going down and we have the data of the node that has failed present in a part of the RAM of the other nodes, the system is able to continue to work in seamless way without reloading, without interruption, without the need to reload the data from the disk. So these are all parts, are all components that we develop in-house. So really, when you think about our company, we are very famous because, you know, when you go in the, for example, NIST ranking, you see us at the top place for the MANEX3, for the PF3, or for other measure evaluation. But in fact, Neurotechnology is much more. We have really a team of very skilled developers that works on all those parts and that make the full system very robust. I mean, I speak about the software system. And then in terms of course, hardware that we use, we tend to be, you know, very flexible and with the capability to adapt substantially to any server type that meet the minimum CPU and RAM requirements. So we really avoid, you know, like any lock-in, you know, like even our base SDK is substantially open to support more than 160 scanners. So we really make the system really open because you know, like when you go on our website, you go on the download section of our website, and you can even download the software and try it with on your own computer or on your own system.
That's interesting. I'm really glad that you clarified that because it's kind of funny, like, you know, we're writers, basically. We're just journalists covering the space, and kind of all we ever focus on is the algorithm, like who has the best algorithm. And we can go through the reports in detail and see who's the fastest, who's the most accurate, blah, blah, blah. But there's a whole other side to this that is missing.
Well, let me say to you one thing on this point. Yeah, I mean, we of course we also believe that the algorithm is very, very important, and we really work hard to keep it at the top level. But I think I have personally attended a couple of conferences where NIST was giving some speech, and they always even underline the difference between the laboratory data and the operational data, because really when you see the biometrics, work in the field, it's always there is like something different than the test that you make, because even the tests that are made by the NIST, for example, they are not exhaustive. Like if you look, for example, at the current test, I think that the latest one-to-one test for fingerprint is now the FPVT 2012, so it's more than 10 years old. And nowadays we have neural network that are usually present not only in the face or eyes modalities, but also in the fingerprint modality. And probably if some tests will be conduct, again, also on the one-to-one, we will see different results than the one that we have seen more than 10 years ago. And still you will have like a number of steps in the real system that you don't see in the laboratory test. I can give it to you like very simple examples, like when you have like the enrollment, like in a large scale project, you could have in some country the situation where the operator is basically paid for each enrollment, or where simply the operator get tired. And we have seen in many cases like situation where the duplicates is found only by one fingerprint. That was the fingerprint of the operator. So you understand, like when you make a test that, for example, aim to match all the 10 prints, and all the 10 prints are either the same of a person that is in the base, or are all the 10 different. Yes, this is a good test, but not always reflect everything that is happening in the real situation. So we have like, those anomalies when we need to detect case where a part of the fingerprint is matched, or we see fraud attempts where, for example, the slap, I'm sorry that now our audience cannot see my hands, but where basically it's two people are crossing their fingerprints on a slap scanner, and basically you have 4 prints, but in fact 2 belongs to one person and 2 belongs to another person. And all those cases, we see in the real project. And I think that nowadays those are the real challenge that we have in those projects that we need like to solve, like to detect all those anomalies and non-standard situation that appear. And I would say that we are working, and we have worked on those, I would say, very, very successfully.
Mm-hmm. This is a theme actually just on the point about the NIST testing, and you were saying that it doesn't really capture how things perform in the field. Of course, it's important. But Tony, this is very similar to what Jay told us. We were talking to Jay Meyer from FaceTech on our last episode, and he was basically saying the same thing, that the NIST tests.
I saw the glint in your eye, Alex, when Antonello mentioned that.
I forget exactly how he put it, but he was saying that you can kind of like tweak your algorithm to meet the test standards.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily going to reflect how it's going to operate in the wild. So here we have another company with a leading product that isn't simply looking at the test, but is looking at how do we actually perform in the field, which is, even more important.
How did you put it, Alex? You put it a good way. Studying for what was the?
Oh yes, studying, testing, teaching to the test.
Teaching, there you go. Teaching to the test. Yeah.
Right.
But Tony, I feel like I cut you off earlier. Were you gonna ask something?
No, I was gonna bring up the NIST, our talk with Jay in NIST as well, and then I saw the look in your face. So
I stole your thunder. I'm sorry.
no, I backed away. I backed away.
So, Antonello, I also wanted to go back to facial recognition. We have been talking a lot with people lately about the threat of deepfakes. And I'm just curious what your team has been doing. Like, I assume you have some sort of liveness detection
That's correct. Yeah.
technology. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you're tackling that threat? And like, how big a threat is it, do you think? Because there's a lot of hype and
Yeah, correct. Correct. I mean, but this is again like yes, there is a lot of attention on the liveness detection technology. In fact, we had the liveness technology. We have liveness detection technology since many years. You know, like since when we have introduced the face recognition, and then we have evolved it during the time, because clearly in the beginning was purely mostly an active process, meaning that as minimum you had to blink in front of the camera to perform like liveness check, and then we get the feedback from the user that want really to have a seamless experience with no action, with passive, and then the neural network helps really a lot on it. And up to now, we have passed the iBeta level 1 for the pad. We are working on iBeta level 2. But then this is, again, like I think that this is very important for the process, of course, when there is like a self-enrollment, or when there is like a self-verification using the face modalities. But in fact, on the large-scale system, we as a company who has not only face the recognition technology, but that has also like fingerprint, iris, palm print, and voice. I think we really mitigate, we are nowadays able to mitigate those risks of deepfake for the face using also additional modality. I mean, we are now in the process to launch in very short term, and we already make it available for some of our partners, like a new SDK for consumer mobile, analog to face verification, that will add also the voice modality and the fingerprints to be captured from the phone camera. So we believe, and we already see, like in certain use case, that when you don't need, like for a fraudulent attack, when you need to impersonate not only the face, but also other modalities like voice and fingerprints from the camera phone. I would not say that, of course, it would be impossible, but this become exponentially like more difficult, you know, like to hack. So, of course, it all depends by the security that the system requires, you know, like if it's so the problem with morphing attack, with impersonification attack, it exists. We are improving to reduce, we are working to reduce significantly the those errors, but still there are alternative biometric modalities that can be used complementary to the face modality to make the overall process of self-enrollment or of self-verification much more robust.
Mm. So it's sort of, I assume, in the really like large scale government projects, like the ones you mentioned, like in India and in parts of Africa.
I would say not only like we work with a number also of UN agency, for example, or also with private sector with the banking, and we really see an interest in the voice modality together with the face modality for authentication over mobile phones. I mean, exists, of course, the way to spoof even the voice modality. We are aware about, and we are in contact with institution even that works like realizing algorithm to mitigate impersonification of voice, but still, again, the combination of two modalities makes much more difficult to impersonate, like one person, like from in an attack.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's an argument for multimodality in very sensitive situations. Like if you're enrolling voters, you want to be absolutely sure that everybody is
Yeah.
one real person.
I mean, typically when we are speaking about voters nowadays, this is like still a controlled environment. So typically the verification is happening with an operator. So of course, except the case that there is a cooperation from the operator in performing the fraud, it's very difficult, to perform in an impersonification. But where we are speaking about, for example, services that like for banks or even, like for ONG that are not controlled, or where, for example, the cost of controlling them by an operator is very costly. So this kind of multi-factor authentication through multi-biometrics, I think, is really beneficial. Really beneficial.
Well, I know that we are a little bit short on time. So is there anything else we should ask you before we say goodbye here?
Oh, it's an hard question. I mean, there are, of course, many things that like you can ask. So, but yeah, I think this I would like to remark that whoever between the audience it's interest to try our new SDK for multimodal for mobile, it's like welcome. Like to contact me and can get a trial of it. Like as I told you during this interview, we as a company we are very open, like in the real sense of the term, meaning that there are cases even with our competitors, who apparently may think we are competitors, cooperate in certain projects. So whoever is free, like to try our technology, to go on our website to download the trial of our SDK, of our ABIS, of other products, and really try by his own, like our technology, because we really believe that it's not only what we see in the test, what we claim by our side, but at the end of the day is the experience that each of our customers have as with our products, that it's really the best proof how good is our technology.
That's great. Yeah, and we can include links in the description
Thanks.
of the episode
Yeah,
for our listeners to go and do just that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, Antonello, thank you so much for joining us today. This was extremely interesting, and we'll have to have you back to tackle more of these issues, because I have like 5 more questions that I didn't have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you, Tony. It's been a very big pleasure to be your guest today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.